wanted to just say in terms of your training now, because you talked about how your training is not as frequent or as much as you were doing prior because of your current ambitions with acting and filmmaking. But can you talk about that a little bit? I think that will be interesting for the listeners also in terms of how you've been able to maintain a lot of your muscle, I assume, because you were mentioning that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely don't train as frequently or quite the same, I guess, volume and intensity as like when I'm prepping for a show or even in the off season, like when I was sort of just constantly prepping for a show. And I think one of the biggest principles to realize is that maintaining what you've already built is a lot easier than building it. The volume and intensity I think required to maintain muscle is not as much as when you have to kind of build it in the first place. You spend all these years building and building and building and then taper it off a little bit and you still maintain most of it. So I'm not going to be at that kind of absolute peak that I was when I was prepping for a show. It's like, but by tapering back my training, I might drop back 10, 20% of that peak kind of thing. But, for half the work sort of thing. Because I guess as long as I keep stimulating the muscle and I'm sort of maintaining and I don't just stop completely. I mean, if I stopped completely for a year or so, then I would have to do a lot of work to really build it back up to where it was kind of thing. But as long as, okay, cool, keep lifting heavy and making sure I put in some decent sets, every week. I don't have to be in there, 6 days a week, that sort of thing. I sort of get away with, maybe 3 or 4, putting in some decent sessions, just making sure I'm still stimulating the muscles so I don't sort of shrink. And I guess it's a very different goal to trying to improve versus I'm just trying to not go backwards kind of thing.
Right.
I guess it'd be like, in like a stream with a current. It's just like, oh, I gotta swim really hard to kind of progress forward or whatever. But then it's just like, oh, okay, I don't really want to progress forward. I just want to not drown kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. That's a
it's
great,
just,
no,
it's like,
that's great
yeah.
analogy. Yeah. That's incredible. So what does that look like now for you? So you mentioned 3 to 4 days a week. What goes
Mhm.
into maintaining muscle in terms of from where you were currently at to where you are now? Talk about some of the details, like how you arrange your training, just some of the principles, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually try and I'll fluctuate my programming a little bit. The programming that I'm kind of doing at the moment would be like a chest and biceps workout, like sort of pressing movements, but then pairing that with like biceps. And then I do like a leg workout, and then I do like a back and pair that with triceps. A little bit of shoulders and abs thrown into either of those workouts. I don't do tons of isolation work on shoulders, partially just because they get hit a lot when I'm doing any sort of other pressing movements or pulling sort of hits the rear delts. But also, I feel like they're also reasonably a strong body part for me anyway. But then, yeah, so I'll do like maybe like push, pull legs type workout, but then obviously, pairing the biceps and triceps differently. And then doing like a full upper body, and then a full lower body. And I'll sort of cycle through that. And so I'll normally get through, yeah, roughly 3 to 4 workouts a
In a
week
week.
sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So the frequency is sort of, I guess I'd get through all those 5 workouts. So push, pull, legs, upper, lower in maybe sort of every 9 to 10 days or so, because I'll do like maybe a couple of workouts, take a day off. I'm not very like meticulously regimented in terms of I have to do pull on Mondays and that. I kind of just like, yeah, as long as I'm in there like 3 or 4 times a week and I'm alternating through those body parts and I'm getting it all done, it's kind of just like just repeating that over and over again. And then after a few months, I might change my program and I might do, like a chest and back, and then like maybe an arms and abs day, and then maybe a legs day kind of thing, and then like maybe an upper body, lower body. But I normally try and pair a couple muscle groups together and have that frequency somewhere between more than once a week. Because by the time I do that next workout, I'll hit at least one body part twice. But then by the time I rotate through the next week, it's another body part getting
Bar
hit twice,
twice.
sort of thing.
Right.
So I would say frequency somewhere around maybe 1.5 a week per muscle. But then again, it sort of depends as well. Like if I have like a photo shoot or something coming up, then I'll be a little bit more regimented and be like, I'm going down to shoot with, the more the muscle guys or whatever. So it's just like, I got to look
Yeah.
a little bit sharper. So it'd be like, I might put in, 8 weeks of training where it's just like, okay, I'm doing all 5 workouts in the 1 week and tidy up the diet a little bit and track calories and everything. Yeah.
So give us an example of your training regime or one of your more productive routines that you did for yourself. And I think that could be cool just for perspective. People like the insight on what the pros are doing. So I think it would be cool for you to just touch on it. Like how did you arrange it? What's the amount of volume that you would typically do, the frequency in, let's say, an off season?